Now, at least 5 people, including a child, have been killed, and at least 200 people injured in last night's tragic attack on a Christmas market in Magdeburg, northern Germany. Now, the arrested suspect has been named. Taleb A is what the actual German press are reporting, a 50-year-old Saudi citizen who arrived in Germany in 2006 and had worked as a doctor, with a weakness in security blockades around the venue actually being investigated. I seem to remember people saying, well, high-skill migration, no problem. A doctor committing this kind of thing, not good. Now, to discuss this, I'm pleased to welcome Julian Reichelt, a founder and editor-in chief of NUIS. News. Oh, it's pronounced news. I beg your pardon. I thought NUS, the National Union of Students. That doesn't sound correct. Of news. Julian, thank you very much for joining me. Could you just give us the latest on what we know and what's been established?
Well, the latest and very tragic news coming out of Magdeburg certainly is that the child killed in this horrible attack is a 9-year-old boy who will not live to see Christmas, and his mother put out a heartbreaking obituary on Facebook, and that's pretty much what is on everybody's mind and everybody's heart now. The big political scandal shaping up here is that the German authorities were warned over and over and over again that this person who turned then out to be that terrorist driving that car into the Christmas market would be up to something just like that. He had announced to friends, he had announced to pretty much random people he had met on social media that he would die this year, that he was planning something big, that he would carry his war to the German people, that he was very unhappy with how Germans behaved towards the things he wanted to achieve. It had a lot to do with bringing more refugees to Germany.
Wow.
And apparently, even the Saudi authorities, the Saudi intelligence services, had warned the German intelligence service that this was someone, that this was an individual with terrorist tendencies. And then another warning came in to the official authority here in Germany that deals with all of the migration. A young lady sent them direct messages through X, actually, recently, and told them this exact plan, exactly what he was up to, that he was dangerous, that he had told her he was plotting something like that. And they just responded basically with a formal response saying, you know, if you're concerned about someone committing a crime, please go to the police. So this crime was reported in advance before it happened, 2 or 3 or 4 in 4 different ways to different authorities. No one did anything. So these people who are dead now basically are dead because different parts of German authorities did not respond to very, very specific warnings. And I presume that will be the huge political story of the next days.
And Julian, I mean, you've posted about this, I believe, as well, about Elon Musk's interventions over the past 24 hours. And he has said that actually, well, he's advocated a vote for the Alternative for Deutschland. Now, to what extent do you think this horrible, horrible incident, which some are saying has been perpetrated by a man whose sympathies are with Elon Musk and with the Alternative for Deutschland and against Islam, will be used by the AfD in the upcoming February election?
Well, what you're referring to, this whole motive thing, whose side was this guy on, who was really, that is still very murky. I wouldn't, there's a lot of report about being...
It's a bit sick. It's a bit twisted.
I wouldn't be too certain about that. I've covered as a reporter the Middle East for a while, and I don't want to bore your audience by going into that Shia-Sunni divide and that constant battle that is going on in the region. But it seems, and that is something that you have seen in the UK, that we are seeing here in Germany, foreign conflicts being imported into our societies and then killing people here. And to me, it more looks like a disgruntled Shia Muslim who was very unsatisfied with the regime in his home country, Saudi, and he kind of projected that on Germans. He was trying to rally against the regime at his home. Germans weren't listening to him. So, the Shia Sunni thing came out and he drove his car into a Christmas market. I wouldn't be too sure about like Islamophobia so far. There seem to be a lot of other different possible motives. But to your question, how's the AfD going to use it? This was a guy who was committed of crimes, who has committed crimes before. He was in German court. He shouldn't have been in the country. He should have left this country, years ago when he was first in court. I think it was in 2013. But then recently, over the past 2 years, he has openly threatened to kill Germans. He has threatened it on social media. And, I know there's a lot of talk about the whole, freedom of expression, freedom of opinion, also in the UK. If you post the most minor insult here in Germany on anyone in power, on any politician, the police will come knocking on your door the next morning.
Well, it's the same here. It's the same here.
I know, I'm aware. It's a shame. But if you post on X, this year I will die, I will carry the war back to the German people, I will kill lots, I will drive a car into them. You post all that, apparently nothing happened. So the story here is not, was this guy Islamophobic or who did he like on social media? The story here is, this guy should have not been in the country. He should have been deported years ago, but at least, when he started making those threats. So obviously, our elections, we have early elections because the German government collapsed. It will be in February. The AfD is, second now in the polls, right after the traditional conservatives. The left is panicking that this may, turn around the whole election. You have now people on the streets in Magdeburg demonstrating again. That's, normal people, but also, right-wing people. This may turn violent. This will be a major disruption to the upcoming election. And what's interesting right now, what is going on now, the media, which is predominantly left in Germany, is trying to spin this into a right-wing attack because that guy has liked, some random AfD article and an Elon Musk tweet. So they're now saying he's right-wing. No one is doing it, obviously, because if you look at the act he committed, the layout of that crime is the layout of, an Islamist terror attack. So no one is buying that this guy from Saudi Arabia is a right-wing attacker, but that's what they're trying.
Yeah, exactly. They are. I've seen that all online. I've seen that all. Connie, the attacks on Elon Musk for voicing concerns around this, and of course the arrests on people who voice dissent on these issues. This is happening more and more in Germany as well as Britain, as Julian says. So to what extent do we share the same issues, and to what extent are politicians in both countries directly responsible?
I mean, I think it is the responsibility of the politicians of any country to be completely transparent with their public, and clearly that's not what's happening here. I mean, it's a very confusing picture as to what motivated this person, because it does, all of the evidence seems just very unlikely.
And Julian's saying that let's not get our knickers in a twist over this right now because we don't have all of the facts in front of us, and that it's a bit fishy, which I would agree with. Chloe, the question for Julian, I mean, the European elections are going to be interesting if they're moving to the right and Elon Musk is putting his money where his mouth is, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Elon Musk's voice is very powerful. I mean, he has so many ex-followers. Every single one of his posts seems to get tens of millions of views. I think that will potentially have a big effect on the election. I think one question for Julian is, do you think that, I was quite surprised to hear that this guy is a doctor. Do you think that how educated an individual is has an effect on how likely they are to commit an attack like this? Do you think this was just a quite unlikely that this guy was a doctor, or do you think that the rhetoric we've heard before that people who are less educated are more likely to commit these attacks is wrong?
I think the bitter truth coming out of this attack, and I think your question is insanely important, because we're discussing integration and how can we tell if people are integrated, how can we tell if they love or hate our country, and so far, work, and especially being a doctor, was kind of seen as an indicator that okay, he was a doctor, he has arrived in our society. The truth is, when it comes to illegal migration from these countries, from countries that do have a major issue with Islamism, with jihadism, with Islamic terrorism, with all these sort of political backgrounds, with the Sunni-Shia divide. No job will ever tell you how integrated that person is into society. And that's what they're trying to do now in Germany. They are now trying, when it comes to, the million people from Syria we took in, they are now, and we have no idea who most of them are, the politics are now trying to tell us, look, but half of them have jobs. That means they are fully integrated, and even 5,000 of them are doctors. I've covered these countries. I've spent a decade in Syria, in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in all those countries. And if they have a job, we'll never tell you if they really are integrated into your society and if they agree with the values of your society. So that is what they are trying to spin right now. But I would fundamentally disagree there. A guy being a doctor, apparently, which is even stranger, this guy was a doctor in a mental institution. How can someone who's clearly crazy, who has posted insane lunatic stuff for 2 years on social media, be a doctor in a mental institution, and you still tell people, no, it's under control? We know, he's well integrated. No one knew who he was. He was a doctor in a mental institution, although he was crazy himself, and it was, out there for everyone to see. This story tells us we have no idea who is here? Who are these people? We have zero idea.
Well, exactly. On that very point, Julian, just to bring this conversation to a close, so brief remarks from you. Angela Merkel, what does this do? The attacks that have happened before, 2016 Berlin, of course, was attacked. What does this say about Angela Merkel's legacy?
Well, go to a German Christmas market these days and you will see Angela Merkel's legacy, because I'm old enough, I'm only 44, but old enough to remember Christmas markets before Angela Merkel's policy. And it didn't have, barriers around them. They now, I don't know if you're aware of these, little toys, Lego, that They call it in Germany, they call it Merkel Lego, because it has these little dots on which they put around Christmas markets to protect them from people driving through them. And I can tell you, before Merkel's policies, we didn't need concrete barriers around our Christmas markets. We were fine. That is the big change that came with this policy. Before that policy, no concrete barriers on Christmas markets. After these policies, lots of concrete barriers. Yeah. And those barriers don't stop people with knives. So, you can see the effect, and you're welcome to visit them, if you have 3 days left.
All right, Julian, thank you very much for your insight and for your company. I very much enjoyed that. Julian's the founder and editor-in-chief of NUIS in Germany.